Servant leadership, right? You're
Yeah,
in
yeah,
service to help them be
exactly.
successful, right?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
So remember that. So come from that point of view.
Welcome back to another episode of the Leadership Lab. I'm Henry Kirk.
I'm Jonathan Aronson. Good morning,
And
good
Jonathan,
afternoon, good evening.
yeah, good afternoon and all that stuff. I did not know
I
you were
like
going
your
to say that.
hairstyle today, Henry. Looking very
Yeah,
dapper.
yeah, yeah, thanks. Yeah, yeah. I know I'm going to also get a text. I know I'm going to get a text from my dad and say, "Where's your shirt?" So, yeah, sorry about that. It's been a wild morning, but we have a great topic today. So, Jonathan, why don't you tell listeners what we're going to talk about today?
Yeah, so let's go back, dive into situation leadership. And we already talked about goal setting, right? We talked about the smart goal, but then we also kind of gave it a little different spin where we talked about Stram.
You need to get that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to power down. Okay,
Oh.
get rid of that.
We're back.
We're back again. Yeah, we have a lot of fun here. As I was saying, we talked about SMART goals, and we start with the Stram. Remember, specific and trackable is the first
Yep.
two, and then a conversation around the relevancy, and the attainability or the achievability and the motivation, right? Instead of meaning. So that's the first part. All right. So the next part is once you have are collaboratively kind of in agreement that what you want to accomplish or the outcome you're looking for, or if it's a task or activity, exactly what it is that you're going to do. The next thing that the leader wants to make sure or wants to figure out is how competent is the report or the team at being able to do the task or reach the goal, right? And then also, how committed are they? All right. And what this really encompasses is a conversation with the reports or the team, whatever situation you're in, with the leader. And the purpose of that conversation is to diagnose. It's exactly where the reports are as far as the ability to reach the goal of the task. Does that make sense to you?
Total
Um,
sense. So,
okay.
so let me just make sure I get it. So essentially, like you sat down with your report, your team, you've laid out the goals that you want to have. You make sure they meet the SMART system or something
Yep.
similar. And then the next step now is you need to have like an honest conversation with that person or team to kind of see where they're at to then know the next step, which is like how much
Right.
support or like a freedom, so to speak, they would have.
Right.
Okay, got it.
Exactly. Exactly. So you're going now into the diagnosis conversation. All right. You want to start with not where what they need to get if they don't have it, but where are they right now as far as their ability of doing the activity? Okay, so you want to assess that, right? And as I said, there's two things you want to assess: is competence, and then their commitment to doing the actual task or reaching the goal. So let's start with the competence first. Okay, so the competence really is about you know show me that you can do the task or goal, right? Um, so that's one thing, right? Knowledge and skills that you have in order to do it. The other thing about competence is do you have any transferable skills that or knowledge? Maybe you haven't done it, but you have transferable skills. Does that make
I
sense to
see.
you?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So they call this demonstrated, right, competence. You have to show me as a leader. I can't just you telling me saying, yeah, I can do it. Well, give me some evidence. Okay.
Well, how
So
do you approach that? That's something that I even do that. Like, don't worry, I got this. And then I'm like in over my head in the next couple days.
yeah, right. So easy thing to do. Tell me what you got. as a leader,
Yeah. Oh, I
right?
see.
I mean, tell me more.
Is
Very
that,
simple.
oh, and you, but you don't want to frame it in a way that's kind of attacking the other person's
No, no,
ability,
no,
right?
no. You say, listen, remember, what's your purpose as a leader? Generally, as a manager or a leader of a team or a person, what is your purpose when it comes to your report? What's your role? High
You're,
level.
yeah, you're the person, you're the one that guides them and leads them forward and makes sure that their career is, on track and that they're happy and productive and all that stuff. You are,
Servant leadership, right? You're
yeah,
in
yeah,
service to help them be
exactly.
successful, right?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
So remember that. So come from that point of view. All right? Not I'm I'm judging you to be bad, but let's have this conversation because I want you to be successful, right?
Yeah, I think that's great. So, I mean, yeah. So my point, my question kind of is like on how you frame it is I've seen a lot of leaders when they do this where, and this comes more on the very technical leaders as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
like always the managers when they're working
Yep.
through kind of this sort of thing. I think it's like very similar is the, since the output of the team is reflective upon that lead or leader, you know, sometimes they'll, when someone says, "Don't worry, I got this," and they then fire back with like something to, of the effect that they don't really trust them very much,
That's
where it's
different.
because their reputation is on it. Like that's not what you're talking about. What you're talking about
No,
is
no.
something
I'm
completely
talking about
different, right?
let's evaluate what you got. We're both in this. We're a partner. We're a team. I'm the leader. You're the report, but we're in this together, right? This isn't, I want to make sure you're successful. And if there's anything I can help you with, I want to be able to identify that now, early, so we can get you the tools and the training and the support that you need in order to make sure that you are successful at doing the goal or task.
Yeah, and exactly how you framed it, I agree with. I think that's a good way to approach it.
Okay? I mean, nothing
Yeah,
more than that. It's not
yeah,
a trust issue.
I see.
It's if we don't talk and discuss this, how am I going to know as a leader? And what's my job as a leader? It's also to be responsible to make sure it's getting it done. And if I don't communicate and if I don't have that knowledge, then how can I help?
Mm,
Right?
gotcha.
So let me go back again. Demonstrated knowledge and skills.
Hmm.
Okay. And then if you don't have it, do you have any transferable? If you haven't done this before and you can't show me specifically that you've done this, do you have any transferable knowledge or skills that might be able to support you in getting the task and the goal completed? All
Okay,
right.
gotcha.
So the question for you, Henry, putting on your leadership hat again, what would be something where the report could demonstrate that they have the skills and the knowledge in order to do the task or reach the goal? Well,
Oh,
like
yeah.
how could you approach that personally in order for you to realize that?
Well, if I were doing that today, I would probably, um, well, if the person, yeah, I mean, I would certainly just say, hey, is there any internal, any projects that you can point me to that are related to this, that you can share with me, or just,
Yep.
tell me about the experience that you have. And I think that even if I can't see it and they told me about it, I would be able to dive in and ask them a lot of the questions. Like, what were some of the things that tripped you up on this? How did you overcome it? And then that would tell me that they actually had that direct
Yeah.
experience as opposed to just like were involved in a project as opposed to like did that part. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, yeah, you said a couple words there that really stood out in this, okay? You want to identify, you know, what, what it is, like what is the report or team going to do and how are they going to do it? Okay?
Hmm.
So it's the what and the how, right? And you mentioned once like have you done this before? Have you done something similar before?
Hmm.
What other things do you think you could also ask or be able to prove? Because in a way, they're trying to prove to you or demonstrate to you that they can do what's needed in order to reach the goal or do the task. What
I
else
mean,
might there
maybe
be?
a peer or someone else can say, "Oh, yes, this
Uh huh.
person did this." Um, I mean, to be honest, like, let me ask you this: like, if someone just says, I've done X, Y, Z, that's relatable or directly associated to this, should I just trust them at their word, or should I actually dive in even more to make sure that it was done?
Ah, the trust question.
Yeah.
What do you think?
See, for me, I was always very trusting until there were signs that that the trust was breached, because it would be a lot easier to have this conversation a week or two later when they dive in and say, "Let me guess, you really didn't have this kind of experience, did you?" And then take it from there,
Okay.
you know.
First of all, you want a relationship built on trust, don't you? I mean, remember I told
Of
you,
course.
in
Yeah.
order for this kind of relationship to work, there needs to be the trust and respect, right?
Yeah.
So demonstrated is it reminds me there was a saying out there in the political world: trust but verify, right? That's what you're doing. Yeah, you demonstrate. So tell me about it. So you could ask, so what does a good job look like here? They have to
Oh, okay.
explain that to you, right?
Yeah, ask what the outcome is. That's
Um,
interesting.
yeah, they could say, you know, like we said, have you successfully done this before, right? How about could you share some examples with me? Okay. I just want to kind of understand where you're at. So those all talk about the what, right? And then how? How would you approach it? Well, how would you you know, um even something like could you teach somebody how to do this? Right? That would be demonstrated. So what you want to do is you really want to get into that, start with that on their competence level. Okay.
Hmm.
Then you can decide what you need to give them as a leader. Do you need to give them direction? Do you need to give them support? Is there something else, that you need to do, or you need to leave them alone and get
I
out of their
see.
way, right? So that's the first part. The second part of competence is, let's say they haven't done it before, right? Specifically.
Mm-hmm.
But then do they have transferable skills, knowledge and skills, something that is transferable that they could apply here? What would be something that could be a transferable knowledge or skill?
Well, especially in engineering, it's working in a different company on a different platform. So the
Yeah,
big thing that comes up all the time is like you build something in Google Cloud versus Amazon Cloud. It's the same, it's two different companies and they have things slightly differently at times, but at the end of the day, it's the same. So if somebody worked on one, like with my startup,
exactly.
I had worked for 8 years on Google Cloud, and now we're working on Amazon because we
Yeah.
wanted to learn it, and I'm finding it's like the same stuff, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if they were led a team in another company or
Yeah,
with a
exactly. Yeah.
different focus, but they led a team, that's a transferable skill, right?
Yes.
I mean, everything we're talking about here isn't necessarily related specifically to engineering. This could be across any kind of leadership uh, situation.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
Good
right.
point.
So that's the first part, the competence. Okay.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
competence again, demonstrate knowledge and skills or transferable knowledge and skills, right?
Got it.
All right. Let's talk about the second part, right? So, the second part is a commitment to doing the task or job, right? Now, what do you think about most people when you give them a goal or task to do? And you talk, how committed are they? Do you
I would
think?
hope. Oh, well, I see where you're going with this. So. yeah, everyone's always going to be very excited and committed and enthusiastic about doing that new task that excites
Something
them.
at the beginning might be new,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, of course.
Woohoo! Something
Yeah,
different,
yeah.
right? Right.
But
Okay.
then 2 weeks, just like I was saying earlier, 2 weeks later, yeah.
All right. So think of commitment as a combination of motivation, right? And confidence. Motivation. How motivated you are to wanting to do the task or or reach the goal. What's
Hmm.
driving you? Okay. The other part of motivation is confidence, or about commitment. It's confidence. Okay. So confidence is what? How do you define confidence?
Well, it's kind of just, well, I guess like your ability to get get through things, I guess. It's like, I got this, I'm gonna figure it out. It's like willing to dive into the challenge. I
Yeah.
mean, I think it could also be part of ego, but I don't know. I just see it as
Wow,
confidence. It's
that's an
like,
interesting thing. Ego. So tell me about that.
I don't know. I mean, I guess I see confidence as something different. I see it differently, but like, I think you need to have confidence to get through new challenges. Because if you don't have the confidence in yourself or your or your or like your traits to be
Yeah.
able to give you that confidence to get through, you're never going to get through that challenge or that project or
Yeah.
whatever. So
So who determines how confident somebody is?
themselves,
Exactly. Not the
yeah,
leader,
no,
right? Okay. So can somebody come in and be really confident and convince the leader because of their confidence that they can do the job?
oh yeah, I was very good at it. I've gotten
Yeah.
jobs before that I'm completely unqualified for just based on
Th-
my ability to be confident. So
yeah.
yeah,
So
I get
what's
it.
my point? Okay. So when it comes to confidence, how does that match up to competence?
Oh yeah, well they go hand in hand, usually. Yeah, I think. No.
Think
Oh
about
well,
this
okay.
now.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah. So you get in over your head. You're like, of course I could do it, and then you're in over your head. So I guess they're related, but they're not equal at all times. Yeah. Never thought of it that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Commitment, okay, um, is different than confidence. How committed you are, how confident you are, okay? Just because you're committed to do it, does that mean you can do it?
I would think so, yes.
Really?
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
let's think about this for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay? If you're committed to do something,
Yeah.
but you haven't done it before, does that
Hmm.
mean you can do it? Does that mean you can do it right now and here and now?
But wouldn't you say that like you then dive in and you figure it out? Like you develop the
Yeah, you're
skills to,
diagnosing, but you could get confused, okay, because you are seeing commitment as confident competence to do it. Just because a person is committed to do it doesn't mean they can do it. Okay, let's say I want to rebuild an engine in a car.
hmm
I am so committed to doing this thing. By
hmm
the way, John, have you ever actually rebuilt an engine before? Oh, no, but I'm totally committed to do it.
Yeah, you read a book.
Okay. What's the
That's
leader's
not,
role?
you don't count that.
What's the leader's
Oh,
role
I see.
here?
The leader's role is to make sure that they're competent enough. Well, you're diagnosing their level so that way you can get to the next stage.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Hey,
I
ding,
see.
ding,
So
ding.
so you basically want to break down that person to understand their level of competence. Do you think most people are willing to admit their level of competence?
Well, let's talk about trust. Where would trust play, right?
Yeah.
Come into, right? Where would trust come in? Well, yeah, if I trust you as a boss, sure. Like if I was coaching somebody, right,
Mhm.
Henry, I would go, I love your enthusiasm. Okay, this is really going to take you to the next level, but let's work on the skills that you need in order so you can put that enthusiasm to work. Don't confuse, right, confidence with competence.
Mm.
Okay? Don't confuse commitment with confidence. And remember, it's motivation and confidence. You can be very motivated to do it, feel like you're confident you can do it, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh,
You
this
know,
is
this
more
is,
complicated than what I thought. That's
yeah,
why you want to have the conversation and get alignment.
I see. I think this is one of those instances where is something where I struggle with myself, where it'd be like, all right, I'll have this done tomorrow, no problem. And then in the morning I wake up and I say, by the way, it's a little bit more challenging than I anticipated.
Mm, right.
It's going to take longer. So yeah, I guess, okay.
So let's
Yeah.
rewind when you
Yeah.
first talked to your leader about, yeah, I got this. And the leader then spent time with you diagnosing, okay, not just your commitment to doing it, but your competence to doing it. How would that change that scenario that you just mentioned?
Yeah, well, the leader probably would have gotten you to realize that you maybe couldn't get it done in a day or two, or you needed that extra support
Yeah. And how
to
would
get
that
it done.
make you feel going through that versus finding out the next day you got to go back to the boss and say, "Ooh,
Well,
it's going to take me longer."
is it depend on the person for that, you think?
I think it depends how you feel, depends on the person.
Yeah.
But I also think that most people, if they want to commit to a timeline, especially if the leader goes, so are you willing to commit to this timeline to get this done by the morning? And you say yes. And then in the morning, you have to go back and go, this was harder than I want. I don't think anybody, most people, really want to do that
Mm,
because they didn't do what they say they were going to do when they say well, they're going to do it. Not because they didn't have the best of intention, by the way. They were committed to doing it, but they didn't have the competence, and the leader didn't spend the time diagnosing, going towards that demonstrate to me that you have the task, knowledge, and skills to be able to do it.
yeah. I think that's a little hard, at least for me, to get that out of people but I think you've laid out some strategies that make a lot of sense.
Curiosity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And you
Curiosity.
just
Hey,
bring up
we're just having a
examples. Yeah.
conversation here.
Yeah.
I'm not, this isn't a good or a bad. I just want to understand what your competence at doing this. So if I can help you, I want to. And if their ego comes involved and go, I got this, I've done this. I said, oh, okay, cool. Well, please share with me what you have. Okay. So, because I'm not sure when you say it, I trust you. I just want to make sure because what I don't want to see happen is you go in with the best of intention, and then all of a sudden something comes up where you might need some more knowledge or skills to be able to done. So why don't we just head it off before? It's
Hmm.
just I just want to understand so I can help you now instead of helping you later, which might slow down the project. Okay, so
Yeah, I love it. Makes sense.
see what I mean? It's how you put it.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Not that I don't trust you. It has nothing
yeah,
to
because
do with that.
as manager, I've been in a few situations where I try to dive in on that, and someone will come back and say, "Hey, Henry, you know me, you know I got this," and then I feel like that's they bring up the trust thing,
Mhm.
and
And then
you've got to
you,
trust me to it, and then a week or two later they have the same issue,
yeah.
and then I have to have that conversation with them.
It doesn't mean they don't believe what they're saying. That's confidence.
Yeah,
Remember,
of
you said
course, yeah,
confidence
I'm the
comes
same
from
way.
internal, right?
Yeah, oh, I'm totally the
I
same way.
got this. I'm motivated. I'm confident. Great. I love that. Now demonstrate to me you have the knowledge and skills to be able to do
Mm,
it. All
mm.
right. And I'm only asking you because I want to help at the beginning if you need the help and I don't want the project to slow down. I'm not saying you don't, just demonstrate to me that you do.
Yeah, this is fair. Okay, got it.
And you know
Yeah.
what? At least my experience of coaching hundreds of engineers, if you
Mhm.
give them a logical explanation that connects the dots, they're okay with that. As long as you make it clear, it's not a trust issue. It's more just about verifying so you can help them and not slow down the project. You're not making it about them. You're making it about the project and about what the goal and the task that needs to be done. Don't
Mhm.
judge them as a person. It's just like
Okay.
giving feedback, right? When you're giving feedback, focus on the problem, not the person.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah. Okay.
All
That's
right.
a great strategy.
All right. So that's what I have all around diagnosing. So remember, we've done goal setting,
Okay.
right? We talked about that. And now we've gone through the diagnosing of being a combination of competence and commitment. Okay.
Mhm.
Again, I'm going to say, competence is demonstrated skills and knowledge or
Mhm.
transferable skills, right? And
Mhm.
then the commitment really is around motivation and around confidence.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
This,
So, yeah. Sorry.
I'm just going to say the third thing, which we'll take up on another podcast, is how to match your style, your leadership style, to what's needed by the report or the team so that they basically get what they need from you, from your leadership, in order to accomplish the task or goal.
Based
So
on what
that'll
you
be the
learned
third.
about them through this
Yes.
process.
Right. So the first part is goal setting, second part is diagnosis, third will be the matching. Okay.
That's awesome. That's great.
All right.
Okay,
What
got it.
questions do you have?
What questions do I have? Okay, so let's flip this around. So let's say that you are a manager of a team and your manager doesn't do this sort of diagnosing with you and just kind of throws things at you. Do you have any suggestions for that other manager to try to or report trying to get their manager to kind of work with them on that? Is it something that you can bring up? Like, hey, I want to have a conversation about my
Well,
competency a little bit.
again, if you have the trust, right? I think there's all sorts of leaders out there. I'm busy, go do it. It's not so supportive, right? This is a process that you go through. So if you're feeling um self leadership, so to speak. And there is, by the
Hmm.
way, a book out there by Blanchard called Self Leadership and the 1 Minute Manager, where you're actually going to the leader and you're saying, hey, I'm feeling this kind of way. Like, I'm not totally confident in doing this job. It seems like there's a lot of parts that, I'm motivated to do it, but I'm not feeling real confident, or um, there's some things that I don't know, and I could use some direction from your point of view. So you're actually asking for what you need.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Gotcha. Yeah,
So you
gotcha.
can do that, but obviously you want to have trust with your leader. And hopefully your leader is the kind of leader that wants to help, you know, um, that realizes what their role is, that they're in service to the people that they lead.
Got it. That's great. Thank you. I don't think I have any other questions, and we're just about out of time anyways.
Okay.
So perhaps we wrap this up. Um,
Sure.
what are your any final parting thoughts, Jonathan?
No, this is a process. I know we have a lot of engineers who listen to this. This works for any type of leadership situation, but it's a process. So follow the process, right? Do the goal setting, right? Start with that. Figure out what does a good job look like? What's the end result? What's the outcome? Or figure out what's the activities that need to be done in order to move towards goal attainment to the outcome, right?
Hmm.
And then get into the diagnosis conversation. Figure out what needs to be done and how it's going to be done, and talk to your report about that and make sure you're aligned. So you do that right at the beginning before you get surprises. Because the one thing I remember as a leader, I hate surprises.
Hmm.
I like to know what's coming so I can plan for it, I can support it. I can make sure that we are in control of the process.
Yeah,
So it's a collaborative effort. It's a partnership. Partner with your reports and your team. All right. And then um, it's not a long conversation either. Just demonstrate, that you got this. Don't just tell me. Tell
mhm.
me how you come to that. Not why I should believe you, but just I want to make sure I haven't missed anything and I want to support you. So,
That's great. That's great. I think
okay.
the next segment for this, where we talk about matching the styles, can be a great follow-up, and it's gonna be
Yeah.
super awesome. So
Cool.
great, awesome. Well, if you've gotten this far, thank you so much for listening. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, so you can get our new episodes every week. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. And if you'd like to reach out to Jonathan or myself, our contact info is in the description. So thanks again for listening to the Leadership Lab. My name is Henry Kirk,
And my name is Jonathan Aronson.
and have a great rest of your day.